Welcome to Lickin' on Lending, the podcast that dives deep into the heart of the mortgage industry. Your host, David Lickin, bringing you the latest insights, trends, and updates from the world of mortgages. Whether you're a seasoned industry veteran or just getting started, this show is your go-to source for all things mortgage. Let's get started. This is Lickin' on Lending. Now your host, David Lickin.
Listeners, we're in for a real treat today. We're talking to a visionary leader. How many of you aspire to be a visionary leader? We're going to get to talk to one who has actually done it and doing it. I'm really excited to have Chris Heller joining me. He's 35 years of experience in the real estate industry. He's got an extensive background. In fact, we're just going to let him tell us all about it. Chris, good to have you on the microphone and on the podcast.
David, thank you. And I don't think I ever aspired to be a visionary leader, but I guess sometimes those things just kind of happen.
They do kind of happen. And you are, though, when you sit and look at it. And that's what I want to get into so people understand just how much of a visionary leader you are. I really want to get into that. So let's first of all talk about the journey. Let's talk about where you started to where you got to where you're at today. If you could cover that for us.
Yeah, I was a sophomore in college, and my dad called me one day and said, "You're going to get your real estate license and come up to Lake Tahoe and sell timeshares for the summer." I said, okay. And I did that. And then later that summer, he got an opportunity to move to San Diego to manage a resort. I went down there. And that summer job turned into 3 years of selling timeshares. And
wow.
And learned a lot. I was 20 years old and learned how to sell and learned how to close and learned how to present. Along the way, I met a real estate broker. And for 3 years, that broker kept recruiting me and sending me handwritten notes and calling me and every time I saw him. And just to make a longer story shorter, one day he caught me at a weak moment and I said, all right, I'll give it a try. I'll do this real estate thing. And my first year, I was Rookie of the Year. I went on to spend 16 years at that company.
What company was that? We're going to give him a shout out.
His name is John Lefferdink, and in San Diego. And the company was Prudential California Realty.
Oh, yeah. I remember them. I had two mortgage companies that I was president and CEO of in San Diego. I remember, John.
Yeah. We were part of the Prudential network at the time. They were nationwide, 37,000 agents. I think I was number 8 in the country.
8? And then out of 37,000? Wow, that's an achievement.
And then I made a change. In 2004, I left them and joined Keller Williams. And at the time, Keller Williams didn't really have a presence in San Diego. In fact, I had never heard of the company at that point, and because they just weren't in our market. I vaguely remember them being like some Texas company. Anyways, joined them. That was 2004. By 2009, I was the #1 Keller Williams agent in North America. And the next year, I took an executive role with the company. And they wanted to, at that point, start expanding globally because they were only in North America. And all the other brands, Century 21 and Coldwell Banker, Remax, were all nationwide for decades. I was hired to figure out how to do that. And I did. I figured out how to do that. And over the next 5 years, opened up Keller Williams in over 20 different countries around the world.
Countries, wow.
By that point, it was the current CEO was ready to make a transition, and I was the obvious choice to become the next CEO. So in 2015, became the CEO of Keller Williams Realty. I was there for a little over 2 years in that role. In those 2 years, we doubled the profits of the company in those 2 years. We also, in the 7 years that I was on the executive team, we doubled the size of the company. So learned a lot about growing, building.
Yeah. What do you attribute to the success that you had? Market conditions contribute to that, I'm sure, but the reality is others were not growing at that rate. So what was it, the reason, Chris, that you attribute the success to?
Yeah, there's a couple things. So as far from the growth, it was a maniacal focus on growth. That was our one thing. We had one goal. Our one goal was the number of agents we had in the company. And then we very systematically got our franchisees to all start marching in the same direction to the same tune and created a program to help all of our franchisees grow. And when we did that, we started to see some significant growth numbers. In terms of the profitability, like in those 2 years, there was a combination of things that happened. Number one, I was able to go in and cut a lot of expenses. And it wasn't necessarily a lot of jobs. In fact, very few jobs got cut. But there were a lot of legacy programs, a lot of legacy technology, and a lot of legacy technology expenses that we're able to modernize and reduce the costs of. And then the growth is what fueled the rest of the profitability. Just really focused and executed. We moved fast, we failed fast, but we always failed forward. And
That's a good important concept, yes.
And we were able to accomplish a lot. After 13 and a half years there, I left and didn't decide I wasn't going to figure out what I was going to do next. I was going to see what happened. What happened was I met Anthony Shea, the founder of Loan Depot, and after 6 one-on-one meetings, okay, how can we be in business? I want you to, what will it take? And ultimately I joined him, became the CEO of this sister company that we created called Mellow Home, where we were bridging the gap between mortgage and real estate and other home services. And all along, just to back up, I've been involved with the technology side of our industry for a long time. Back as early as the late 90s and early 2000s, I had guys building programs for me and platforms, and created a platform myself. I was very, very connected to that and always looking at ways to change and improve things. So I was also advising and on the board of several technology companies at the time. One of the companies was a company out of Austin, Texas called Ojo Labs.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
And they, in the middle of 2019, they said, hey, we could really use you full time. Now, I was a very active board member. I was advising and calls each week, but said, hey, we could really use you full time. And at the time, the mortgage industry, as you remember, like second half of 2018 and the middle of 2019, really hit the doldrums, significant margin compression. At Loan Depot, we went from almost 8,000 employees down to just under 5,000 in 90 days.
Wow.
And a lot of the things that I went there to do, we just couldn't do them because we had to focus on the core business. I didn't feel like I was contributing the way I like to contribute to things and building the way I like to build. So I made the move and met with Anthony.
Great move, too. Ojo is one of the innovators.
Yeah, it's been fun. And the next year we bought Movoto.com, which was the 5th largest portal at the time. And so for the last 5 years, we were competing with Realtor and Zillow and Homes and Redfin. And then just recently, we were acquired by Lower Mortgage.
Yeah.
So now I'm back working for a mortgage company.
Yeah, that's such an amazing history, and there's so many parts of that. I'd love to get back to some of it, but I really want to focus on what you're doing now because I think it's forward-looking. There's a lot we can learn from your journey that I think we probably want to get you back on and record some of that to see why that was successful. I have another podcast called Looking on Leadership, and I think that's where we're going to feature some of that, Chris, some of your historical background. We'll get you on that and get that. And the purpose of that podcast is to record significant examples of leaders, record leaders who have significant examples of success over different time frames. And I think that old Santiago, the Spanish philosopher, said, what we failed to learn from history, we're doomed to repeat. And I think that's one of the things I have that podcast up and running for, because I really am interested in recording those and have them out there for posterity to live on. But so that's another conversation we'll be having soon. But let's talk about what is the acquisition by Lower. Give us a little reason why this is something. Did they just offer you such a great price? Was it something that you think is a real strategic move? Lower's had some not such good press lately in some of the things. They've had lost some key leaders. And what's going on there and what draws you in there? They got you now, so I think we're going to see profits go up and everything else.
Yeah, look, we as a company, we do some things really well. We meet consumers at scale.
When you say we as a company,
Ojo and Movoto.
That's so I want to make sure we're clarifying that.
Yeah. We have 70 million unique visitors a year that come to our site. We take those visitors, we connect them, we partner with top real estate agents and teams all over the country, make those introductions. And we also generate a lot of mortgage leads. And those mortgage leads have been fueling some of the largest some of the largest mortgage companies in the country. We always knew that the best partner for what we were was a mortgage company. We had consumers, we had the real estate connection. The only piece we're missing was the mortgage piece. Now there's a lot of mortgage companies out there and a lot of great companies. And we had meetings with lots of them. It was when we acquired Movoto, it was at a time where it was the only time we were able to do that. And it was because it was in the early days of the pandemic and no one was doing anything. If it was at any other time, there's no way we could have acquired that company. Realtor.com, Zillow, one of them would have bought them in a heartbeat. And they were shocked when they found out that we bought them. Now, again, this closed in June of 2020, right? People had just only been home out of their offices for 3 months, and no one was thinking about raising tens of millions of dollars and making big acquisitions. People were more concerned about, are they going to survive? So it was an opportunity purchase for us. In the last several months in the mortgage industry, it's been the same way. But the leadership at Lower decided to hey, here's an opportunity. And no one else is doing these type of things right now, and we're going to take a big swing and do this. Now, as we were going through the process with them, Rocket acquired Redfin, and they acquired Mr. Cooper. We were deep in the process. Here's what we liked about Lower. We wanted to find a company that, number one, had the ability to really focus on retail, because real estate teams and real estate agents just work better with retail loan officers than they do call center loan officers. And the other way around too. But that also had the desire to build a direct-to-consumer piece of the business, because we do have all those mortgage leads that we generate that we can take to those teams. And Lower and Dan and his leadership team definitely have that vision and do that. Okay. We also wanted to find a company that had the same values as ours. We value relationships. We succeed because of the relationships we have with real estate agents and teams. And they value not only relationships as much as we do, but they value real estate agents and real estate teams at the level we do. And that was really important. We had to have that cultural fit. And then the vision to take something that's not one of the biggest and build it into one of the biggest. And that's the opportunity that we see and why we're excited.
Yeah, when you look at the previous attempts to do, why do you think this one's going to succeed over those previous attempts? You touched on it, but I want to go a little deeper on that.
Yeah, there's always two things that are required. One is timing. You have some of the best ideas don't work because it's not the right time. We believe
that's so important, yes.
Yeah, we believe this is a great time. And we believe it's a great time because we're in this period where it's really challenging right now. And if we can build the foundation of what we're doing now, and then when the market starts to turn and change, be able to ride that with the momentum that we'll be creating, that becomes a really powerful force. So timing, we feel really good about. The second is, takes the right team and the right talent and the right expertise and the right focus. We believe that when we bring consumers and real estate agents and real estate team relationships to a mortgage company, that becomes a very compelling offering for a mortgage company. If I'm running a branch and I can say, wait a minute, this company over here, they can introduce me to top real estate teams and top agents, and not just introduce, hey, David, meet Joe. It's, no, wait, we're going to introduce a consumer to this real estate agent that's been matched with this loan officer. And together you're going to work with this. Now I know what everyone's thinking, what you're probably thinking, Chris, every real estate agent and real estate team has relationships with loan officers. Of course they do. Of course they do.
Of course.
But when the mortgage company is the one paying for and acquiring that consumer and says, hey, on these consumers, we're going to match them with a real estate agent and a mortgage professional, and we're going to introduce you guys before so you can meet each other and make sure you can work well together and know how each other work and how to support each other. And together, everyone's going to do more business. People understand that. Agents understand that. Teams understand that.
You're touching on something here, which is really what it's all about, is focusing on the consumer. We want to make sure we have a benefit that's going to the consumer. We have a benefit, all the business aspects of it are important, but you really touch on this when we were talking previously, and this acquisition is good for consumers, and I'd like to have you explain why.
Yeah.
And why is it now that you touched on timing? So they've tried this before, the timing aspect of that as well.
Yeah, so if you talk to any consumer who bought a home and went through a transaction and got a mortgage and ask them how their experience was, their experience will be equal to the level of expertise of the individuals they worked with, right?
That's right.
So if you have a great real estate agent and a great loan officer helping a consumer, 9 times out of 10, that consumer is going to say, this is a great experience. We felt like we were their only client. They did what they said they were going to do, and then some. They made us feel special. All those things, right? They communicated proactively. The challenge is that most consumers don't end up with a great real estate agent and may not have a great loan officer. and things don't get done, and there's spotty communication, and people don't follow through, and the consumer's having to, hey, what's going on, or when's this happening, or shouldn't I be packing yet, or like all those things, and it's like a very stressful
Yeah.
for most consumers, having to go through that. But that's a function of who they were dealing with. So when we can align with the best of the best teams, the top agents, top LOs really know how to work together, and top agents and top LOs know how to work together, right? That's what they do. That's how part of how they became very good in their respective fields. Then the consumer benefits from that. Right? They just have a better experience. When a consumer's online and they end up on our site for whatever reason, and they find a property they're interested in, they click on it and they want to see that property, and we call them and find out how we can help them. If we can connect them, and if they want to be connected to a top loan professional and a top real estate agent to help them see that property and find out what they qualify for and explore different loan options, that makes it really easy for a consumer, right? They're not having
It's a combination of tech and people. You can't minimize the importance of tech in this process, but you can't minimize the importance of a relationship. And really interested in having you get a little bit deeper in how you have been able to integrate those, or how you're in the planning to integrate those and make those so successful in this newfound partnership.
You're right. It's tech, people, and operations, right? That make it more seamless for the consumer. And that's the case in just about everything. But certainly in our industry, that's important. And the people component is super important, because this is it's a big transaction for someone, right?
Yeah,
Borrowing hundreds of thousands of dollars, making that emotional decision to make a move.
Yep.
And people need the support, they need the guidance, they need the hand holding, they need the advice. So it's really simple. Like I said, consumers are online, right? They're online shopping. They're on our site, they're on other sites. They see a property that interests them. They click on a button that says, I want to tour this home. They provide their information. We call them. We find out how we can help them. If we can help them, sometimes we can't. Sometimes it doesn't make sense to connect them to anyone. But if they are looking to buy versus rent, and they aren't under a contract with another agent, and if they say, yes, I'd like to be connected to an experienced agent or team that could help me with that home or others like it, and we bring that agent on the line and make that introduction. Now, as part of a mortgage company, it's just a natural for us to also be able to ask that consumer, hey, when you find the home that you fall in love with and buy, will you be paying cash or financing? And if they're paying financing, be able to say, would you like to be connected to one of our loan specialists that could help you figure out what you qualify for, or potentially save you time, money, or hassle? If they say yes, then we can make that introduction. The key is the relationship between the agent and the loan officer. The key is that establishing those relationships ahead of time versus just a blind date where you're connecting these three people that have never met or communicated before.
Yeah, and I think that's where so many of these have failed. You sit and look at the success ratio, the adoption, where they've actually transferred over. It'll be real interesting to see how Rocket bridges that. They've got so many changes now, and now you guys are doing the same thing. It's interesting, you were in the process of doing this, and they got out there with the headlines just before this got done. But I think I would rather measure twice and cut once and make sure I get it done right. Let's talk a little bit about the technology part of it. I believe technology should be doing a lot of the tactical, the task-oriented stuff, and freeing up the people to work on the relationship. How do you guys accomplish that, or what's your views on that, Chris?
Yeah, no, and I agree, right? I'm always looking at what we can automate, what we can augment with technology to make the process simpler, easier, quicker. It starts with the site and the portal and the consumer experience on there. Having a site that's very fast, that's very clean, that isn't spamming them with a bunch of information, that allows a consumer just to do what they want to do, which is find homes or see what their home is worth or find the property that they drove by, and then be able to get all the information that they think is important to them versus what we think might be important to them, and be able to do it in a very simple way. And then if they want help, be able to have them be able to click on a button and say, hey, I want to message the agent, or I want to see this property, or I want to find out what my home's worth, or I want to get a cash offer, or whatever the call to action is that it provides them.
How's that?
The technology to run that is something we've invested a lot in. Then when they do click on that button, building a seamless way for us to communicate with them very quickly. While we're communicating with them, notify multiple agents in that service, that zip code, that we have a live consumer on the phone, and for an agent to hit a button and let us know, yes, I'm available and I want to help them. And for us then to bring them on the line in that live introduction and say, hey, David, we have the Joneses on the line. They're interested in the property at 123 Anywhere Street. We told them they'd be in great hands with you and that you could help them see that property and others like it. And you come on the line and say, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Jones, I see you're interested in the property at 123 Anywhere Street. It's exciting. Would you like to take a look at that on Friday or Saturday? And just give them what they want, which is to go see the property.
Yeah. And again, the more we can let technology do the work for us and let us focus on the relationship. And that's the part of this that really works. We're in an industry that right now has been fraught with a lot of lawsuits, market changes, the affordability issues seem to continue to plague us. In light of this new administration's initiatives and some of the things that they're proposing, love to get your perspective on how you see this acquisition really taking us into the next chapter of the real estate finance industry, or the whole mortgage transaction, or whole real estate transaction.
Yeah, look, there's a lot of change happening. There's a lot of change to come. No doubt about that. But one thing that doesn't change is relationships. It's if I put on my real estate hat, I need a great mortgage relationship to be successful in helping my clients buy homes. If I put on my mortgage hat or my loan officer hat, I need great relationships with top agents and top teams who can connect me with their clients so I can help them and do what I do.
Yes.
And so that doesn't change. What we have is the ability to create a lot of those relationships very quickly and then be able to introduce consumers into those relationships so that they can be served. And regardless of what happens with the administration, what happens with the GSEs, what happens with Fannie and Freddie, and all the other things happening, people still are going to buy homes, people still are going to sell homes, and they still need professionals to help them do those things.
It's so true. We're not seeing the real estate market. The American dream isn't going away. So the more we can find a way to make that process less painful, less friction in it, I think the better off. It sounds like you guys are well on your way. One of the things I'm looking at as we get ready to wrap this up is understanding the importance of this deal and what it means. Is there anything that we've overlooked in about this transaction or how we're viewing the industry? I'm talking about us as an industry at large.
Yeah, I don't know. The only people that are overlooking it are the ones that aren't paying attention. With Rocket, there's things happening all at the same time. Zillow is doubling and tripling down on Zillow Home Loans and the relationships they have with their Zillow Flex teams.
They really are.
Rocket buying Redfin, Lower acquiring us. That means that at the top of the funnel, at the very beginning of the process, when consumers are shopping online, on Zillow, on Redfin, on Movoto, that they are now able to be connected with an agent and a loan officer. So the people that might be overlooking things are the ones that are saying, oh, those acquisitions, those partnerships don't mean anything. They kind of do. That means that companies like Lower Mortgage are going to be meeting consumers before they maybe walk into that open house, before they go to LendingTree to check rates. That means that we're going to be connecting them with great agents and great loan officers at the beginning of their journey, which means that there's fewer consumers that'll filter their way down through the traditional ways. And that's happening, and that's going to continue to happen.
And the reason you believe you're going to be more successful than the Rocket, Redfin, and the Zillow Mortgage? What's your secret sauce, you think?
We have one inherent advantage, and that is we are small and we are nimble and we're able to move fast. When you take two large companies like Rocket, who, by the way, did two very large acquisitions at the same time, that's all encompassing. Even for small companies like us, integrating is, wow, there's a lot of work to do here. But we can move fast, and we are moving fast, and we already have, the foundation's already been built. Like, we've been building it for the last 5 years. Lower's been working on it for the last several years. So now it's just coming together at this time where we can really start going. In my mind, I always have the analogy of building a skyscraper, right? For months and months before anything starts going vertical, there's a lot of foundational work being done.
Stuff goes underneath, yeah.
We've already built the foundation. We've already done the foundational work. So now we're just going to be able to go vertical.
So what do you think AI is that going to play into this in a bigger way? AI showing up everywhere. So how do you see that with your technology?
Absolutely. It's showing up everywhere, and we're just like, I don't even know if we're in the first inning of.
I don't know. I think I don't think so.
And so like there's going to be ways that we're going to be utilizing it to help agents improve their skills, improve their operations. Same with loan officers, same with the loan process, or the mortgage process. Companies are already doing that. And so that's going to continue. And then it's going to start to move into how it can help with the consumer and make the process quicker, more seamless, more transparent for them. Yeah. I don't think there's things we can do that we can hardly even imagine that'll be happening, but those are all good things.
And that's, you hit on that correctly, in my opinion, because it's things we can't even imagine. The only way we're going to be able to imagine is by making ourselves available to what's coming or what is out there working. I recommend anyone listening to this, I say it in every podcast, get the book, The Coming Wave by Mustafa Suleyman. He's now the president at Microsoft of everything AI. This guy wrote this book, and The Coming Wave. It's a must-read book. It's going to open your eyes to what is coming and the possibilities of it. I don't think there's a better book on the topic, Chris, that I've seen out there. And then you see companies like Angel AI, Pavan has built an end-to-end mortgage operation. It's really exciting. It is coming, and I think those that ignore it are the ones going to get hit. I think also people that ignore these kind of the things which you're doing at the top of the sales funnel and how you're integrating it. I just wish you all the success in the world, Chris. I appreciate you're up there, Whitefish, Montana, and joining us. I know you fly all over the country, but joining us today from there. You're in we always tease Casey Crawford. That's fact, you and I met at the Housing Wire. Shout out to the Housing Wire. And if you're not registered to go to the Housing Wire gathering, you should be there. I wish I could be. I'm fortunate to have some other things happening in my life right at the moment. I'm going to be unable to attend, but Chris will be there. Look him up and find him and understand more what's happening. But Chris, I want to say thank you so much. You're in the Casey Crawford movement territory. He's up there in the same neighborhood as you, and we were talking about that when we first met. Casey has a high respect for you and is excited about the future of what you're bringing and what you're bringing to Lower. So kudos to you and continued success, Chris.
Thank you, David. Thanks for having me on.
It's a joy to have you here, and can't wait to have you back. Got to get you on the Lincoln on Leadership podcast. That's the next one we're going to record. I'm going to make sure we follow up on that right away. Thank you so much for being here. I want to say a special thank you to our sponsors. I appreciate them making this podcast possible. Byte Software, Angel AI, True, Candid, Mortgage Bankers Association of America, Lenders One, The Mortgage Collaborative, also Modex, Knowledge Coop, Redder, Mortgage Advisory Tools, and Fuel. Thank you so much for being here, listeners. Share this one around. This is an important one for us to listen to. A lot of really key information came out of this podcast, and encourage you to listen to it and share it with others. Also, more importantly, give us feedback on it. We love to hear it. Thank you so much. Have a blessed day.
You've been listening to Lykken on Lending. Our passion is to bring you the latest insights, trends, and updates from the world of mortgages. So on this show, if you're a seasoned industry veteran or just getting started, it's your go-to source for all things mortgage. We hope you've enjoyed the show. We'll be back soon. Take care, and we'll see you next time on Lykken on Lending.